Producer's program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Eye on Oshkosh. I'm your host Cheryl Hentz, and on this edition I'm very, very happy and yet somewhat sad to be welcoming our guest in the first half. It's Oshkosh Police Chief Scott Greuel. This is his retirement show, and so it is bittersweet that I have him as a guest in the first half this evening. In the second half, I'm very happy to be welcoming our new incoming police chief, Dean Smith, and he will be here to talk about his future in Oshkosh, which we hope will be a long and happy and safe one. So, welcome.
Thank you, Cheryl. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
And you've been on many, many times.
I have. Yes.
How long have you been chief now, Scott? Is it 8 years?
8.5 years. I started in July of 2007.
And I remember that night.
Yes, I do too.
And we did the same kind of thing, except we were talking to Chief Dave Erickson first, and then in the second part we talked with you. Yeah. And since you became chief 8.5 years ago, you've been on here many times, as we said. And it's, you know, I've always tried to have you on a couple times a year just to talk about different things going on in the community and how your community policing's been going and that kind of thing. And I'm hoping that I'll have the same kind of rapport with the new chief, and because I think it's really good and important for people to know what's happening in their community. I mean, we can read about things in the newspaper, but that's not always the most accurate. It's not always the most complete either, as things change. There's just a lot of reasons why it's good to have an established rapport with the department, and to be able to talk about the good things that you are doing as well as the things that are going on in your city.
Absolutely. And we appreciate the opportunity for every forum that's available to us to get out our message and to help to grow the support that we do have. And we've always experienced that, you know, with your show. So we've been happy to be on.
Yeah. Well, and you know, sometimes I ask tough questions, but I think I've always tried to be fair.
Sure.
And you know, that's the kind of relationship I like to have with guests. So it's, and you know, and I've developed a nice relationship personally, I think, with you over the years, and so I'm glad and I'm hopeful that that won't be going away. I see you out to eat from time to time, and it's always nice to say, hey, Chief. So hopefully that will continue. And your wife is wonderful as well. So
I think so too.
I think our paths will be crossing still in the city. So as you kind of look back on this, you know, the last 8 years, well, first of all, how are you feeling right now? I'm sure it's a mixed bag of emotions.
It really is. It's surreal. I'm ready, and you know, as ready as you can be. But as each day approaches, and tomorrow is my last day, I'm not sure when this airs, but you know, tomorrow from right now is my last day. And
so January 8th.
Yeah, so it is mixed emotion. The community part of this job I could do forever. Some of the other stuff kind of weighs on you very heavily, and it is such a demanding job that, first of all, any chief likes to be able to make the decision on their own when it's time, and that's the case here. And I'm healthy yet to be able to kind of see what life challenges have to offer me and opportunities, pursue some hobbies and do some things. But
And do some housework.
And do some housework. Got a laundry.
Because your wife is still working.
Yes, she is, and she will for a little while. But yeah, that honey-do list is growing.
Yeah, yeah. Must do, can maybe do. These are the important things in life,
as
right?
I said, it's probably going to be a second career, what I've got in store for me. So.
And like I said, just put together a little pay structure.
There you go.
So that you're not, being overworked and underpaid in any format. So, as you kind of look back over your entire tenure with the police department, which in total has been how many years?
Well, I've been in law enforcement for 34 and a half years, 30 and a half years of those here in Oshkosh.
Okay.
And it's, in many ways, it's just been a wonderful experience. We love this community.
Yeah. So what, what are some of the high points of your 30-some years here in Oshkosh, or 30 years here in Oshkosh, right. 30 and a half. What are some of the high points, and then what are some of the highlights of your career as chief?
As you can imagine, there are many, many, many experiences, both positive and negative. But I think if I reflect back on in the organization, it's probably been the people that I've worked with, and also the people that I've got to know in the community. And most of my career before becoming chief was on night shift, and so it's a different kind of clientele and customer base at
Now,
night.
when you talk night shift, Chief, you talking second shift or
No,
third?
I'm talking
overnights?
third shift, so overnight.
Or C's, as they call it.
Yes,
The
basically
C shift.
10:30 to 6:30, and dealing with a lot of the alcohol abuse issues and the corresponding types of calls that you get. I had an opportunity to work my way through the ranks there, but as I think I mentioned before, what really opened my eyes organizationally is when I took the accreditation manager position, which really opened my eyes to the bigger view of law enforcement, our organization, the criminal justice system. So that was a highlight, I think, which really kind of set the tone for my ambition for chief. Mm-hmm. And then in the last 8.5 years, it still comes back to the people here, both inside and outside the organization. In the last 8.5 years, we've had quite a transition. I mean, I've hired 50 of the 99 officers, soon to be 100. We've got an additional position. So half of the sworn patrol officers have been replaced on my watch. Now, not all of them are still here, but and so what that helps to do is to change the culture of an organization, and so half of the organization is functioning under the philosophy that's been instilled. 18 promotions of the supervisory team have occurred in the last 8.5 years. So I've really been able to surround myself with the leadership that buy into the philosophy and the expectations that we've developed in the vision for the organization. And so I think if I can say what a greatest legacy will be, it's the people within the organization. Mm-hmm. And then the community as well. I've made a lot of friends and associates, you included in the community, that this position has given me an opportunity to meet. Mm-hmm. And we've had a lot of good successes and collaborations with many, many people that I'm never going to forget. And, I hope to not lose touch with that as well. Being chief gives you access to that and helps to foster some of those things, and I think we've done a wonderful job of strengthening the partnerships that we've got in the community, and that's made us what we are. Mm-hmm.
Well, and we do have wonderful people here in this community by and large, and you always have a few that aren't so great, but you have that anywhere you go.
Right.
And but for the most part, this is a wonderful community. You weren't born and raised here, but I was, and so even though I've lived in different parts of the country over the years, this has always been home to me, and this always will be home to me because of the culture and the people that are here. And I know one other thing that you've done, well, there are a number of things you've done for the department which I want to kind of touch on tonight, but one of the things you've done is make the department more diverse. You know, as our culture becomes more diverse, as our population becomes more diverse, so does the department have to, because you're dealing with a more diverse community base. So can you talk a little bit about that, Chief, as far as what you've done to make it more diverse?
Well, as much as we've done, we're not there yet. We've got a long way to go yet. But any police department and any employer, for that matter, in the community really needs to make the workforce represent the demographics of the community. I think it's especially true in law enforcement, and that helps build community trust if we look like the rest of the community. And so we've done some things very intentional to help us do that recruitment. Now, we haven't always been as successful as we wanted to be, and there's a lot of reasons for it, but it's not for a lack of trying. So we've reached out to certain places where we might be more successful in recruiting members of the black community, the Hispanic community, or the Asian community. And so we've been able to hire you know, members that represent that, both in the sworn ranks and in the non-sworn, you know, support capacity, so to speak. But I think our greatest success has been in the hiring of females, if we can consider that more of a minority. Maybe not in the general city as a whole in demographics, but still in law enforcement, it is kind of considered. I think the national average is 14% of a law enforcement agency should be female. Certainly, from an accreditation standpoint, that's what they look at, and we meet that. We're right now 14% of our organization is female, and we have female within the various ranks. Part of my command staff is a female captain, Cindy Thaldorf. You know her. She's captain of the Investigative Services Bureau. Grew up within the department, and we've got you know, females in the SRO ranks and in the you know, mid management level. But we haven't been as successful as we've tried, and most of the time I think the candidates are self-weeding themselves out, where we'll be successful and we'll go to the places that we're recruiting that might be targeting, you know, members of the black community, and we'll get a lot of applicants, and they will not necessarily show up for our written test. And I think part of that is we need to be thinking more globally from a community, that, you know, we need to diversify our community and make sure that we have things for cultural things and opportunities for members of diverse communities to be welcome here. And I think as the city grows and becomes more welcoming as a whole, we'll be more successful too in our recruitment.
Sure. And, you know, the audience is, as they're viewing this and listening to us, they've probably been seeing some photos. We've got a number of different photos of the chief throughout his time as chief, and we're just going to be sort of dropping those into the conversation. Not really giving an explanation of what they are. They're, I think in most cases, pretty self-explanatory.
Showing my aging over the years? Is that what you're doing?
The progression of gray hair and so forth, yeah. That's of course what we're doing. You know how we operate. No, we just wanted to show a little bit about, you know, some of the things you've done, because it's not just been policing in the strict sense of the word. One of the most recent things that I was part of, that you and your department were part of, was the community basketball game that Fit Oshkosh, the racial literacy organization here in town, helped to put together. A pickup basketball game between yourself and some of the officers within the department, and some of the minority youth in town. And that was something we did back in, I'm trying to remember now. September, yes. It was supposed to be in August, and then there was that murder that took place, and so we had to delay it. But yeah, it was in September. That seems like a long time ago too, doesn't it?
It does.
But you know, you're involved in a lot of those community type things, and I know that you and your wife were at the Stone of Hope exhibit, and you know, those things are important for a chief to be involved in.
I want to thank you for helping to organize that basketball game. I mean, I think that's just one example of how important it is for our department, the police department, to be very involved and active with various members of different communities here, and in particular, members of the black community there, to interact with our officers, to see us as normal human beings, and to play, you know, competitive basketball. I bowed out when it really started getting competitive. I didn't want to get hurt because there was some good talent out there. But
you wouldn't want to have an injury before you retire.
That's right. That's right. That's my excuse. But you know, I think hopefully, and I think it truly happened, where the kids out there playing with us saw us as very real people. Mm-hmm. We didn't have our uniforms on. We dressed down like we were coming to play basketball. And I think my officers got equally as much out of that. It was a really great experience and something to build on for the future. And you know, the other example that you gave is something very important for law enforcement to be seen participating in, and actively participating in, because it's all part of our community. And the more we get involved in those kinds of things, it then does become a little more appealing for diversity, you know, to say, all right, I'm not just an applicant, I'm showing up for that written test, and hopefully I can continue on through the process and they can become members of our community, because the more representative we are, it builds trust for us. And, you know, where we build and strengthen relationships at every contact, and it gives us credibility then in the community, and they're more apt to trust what we're doing.
Sure. Well, and I think it goes to one other very important thing. I can remember, you know, 8.5 years ago when you were coming in and you sat here at this table, and you said that one of your biggest goals was to start team policing, community policing, that kind of thing. Yeah. And that's what you've done. You know, and you came up, as I mentioned to you the last time you were on in October, this little phrase that's on the side of the bus, the big van,
Seco,
whatever you want to call it, the mobile command unit. You know, it says, "Know us before you need us."
Absolutely.
And I still think that is such a clever saying. You know, it's clever, and yet it is simple, and it goes right to the heart of what you, Chief Scott Greuel, have been doing from day one as chief, and that's trying to get your officers out in the community, right, so people do see their faces. Right. They're more than just a badge and a badge number. They are, like you said, real people. Right. You know, you guys do the same things we do in the morning. Maybe you strap on a gun and we don't, but although with concealed carry, there's probably a lot of people that are strapping on guns every day too. But, you know, you're real people too. And you pay bills, you pay taxes, you go to the grocery store, you do all the same stuff we do. And so, you know, when you're showing up at events like that, people are seeing you in other capacities than just driving a beat or walking a beat or, you know, whatever. So...
Yeah, I think that's very important, and thank you for that, because we've worked very hard at trying to accomplish that. And I think the more we personalize our service, where our citizens feel comfortable dealing with the officer that's assigned to their neighborhood, or, you know, that responded on a call, that we have such a high customer service focus and a problem-solving focus and a relationship-building focus, that, you know, when you know my name, and it's just not a uniform or a squad that drives by, you know my name, you're more apt to talk to me about things that are happening in your neighborhood or problems that you're experiencing. And then when we welcome the fact, give me a call or send me an email, you know, if it's not an emergency, it's more of a long-term issue or something that we need to work together on, they're more apt to do that. And it builds trust, it builds confidence in us, and you know, we need the community in order to be effective, and I think that helps to build that relationship. And we've solved a lot of crimes by working together with community members, and, you know, that's what it's all about.
Do you have, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot with this, if you don't have it, that's fine, but do you have some sense of the numbers of crimes that you've solved as a result of people working with officers?
I don't. It isn't necessarily anything we track. We keep going to the well, so to speak, because it is so successful. We've got, I think we've built a relationship where we feel comfortable sharing information with people. and we'll have surveillance photo or some kind of photograph of someone that we'll put out on social media and through the other media outlets, and we've been highly successful in identifying people and solving crimes that way. Frequent enough that we keep doing it because it's so successful. Where in the past, I think sometimes we were more apt to withhold some information because it maybe protects an investigation or whatever. We still have to be careful about that. But right now, it's almost the first thing we do is, all right, what can we release to the public because we need their help in doing it? And you know, I'd be guessing at a number, but it is very frequent that you know, that we get citizens' help. Most of the time, somebody knows somebody that committed something, or they're talking and bragging to somebody about something, and it seems like people are more apt to give us a call in and said, hey, you guys are doing a great job, I want to help, this is who did that. And I can identify that person. And that makes us more effective, and therefore people feel more safe than in our community when we can be reporting that, you know, although things happen here from time to time, we're still a very safe community. When bad things happen, there should be a high degree of confidence that we'll solve it and then we'll brag about it. And most of the time, it's because of direct involvement of the community. Sure.
Well, and the most recent event that I can remember, which is a huge event, and I'm sure that there have been others since then, but it's the most important one that I guess I can remember because it was the biggest, was that murder back in August. You know, within hours of the murder happening, the suspect was caught. I don't think he's had his day in court yet, so we'll just leave it at that. But the suspect was caught. And that was because someone called in and said, hey, I saw this guy.
Absolutely.
You know, and without that, who knows when he may have been caught or if.
We broadcast information out. Social media is, you know, sometimes a double-edged sword, and we've tried to tap into the powers of that. It's very difficult to control that when it's used or initiated by citizens. But in this case, you know, we put out information. There was a knowledge base there anyway from this person, and as soon as there was an observation, we got the call and we were all over it. So another success story, you're right. I mean, and that's a significant event in this community.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I think all local enforcement is using this type of thing now. I get tweets from a lot of different law enforcement agencies around the area, and I believe it was Nina not long ago, like in the last week or so, that they even tweeted out that they were trying to find someone who had hit a dog. Now, in days gone by, you would never hear that kind of thing, probably. But, you know, here, they're looking to the community for help. And I don't know if they ever caught that person or not, but just the fact that they're out there trying to use social media and use everybody as law enforcement officers, junior law enforcement officers, if you will, you know, we're all playing a role in it. We all want to keep our community safe. And so why shouldn't we all help law enforcement to do that?
We can't do it ourselves. I mean, the community needs the police, and the police need the community, and that partnership is what keeps communities safe.
We're down to about 5 minutes, and I just kind of want to ask you a couple of questions that have nothing to do with retirement, but I want to get your opinion on them. One is concealed carry. Do you still feel that it is, I know when we've talked in the past, you weren't really in favor of it. Have your opinions on that changed at all, or do you still kind of feel the same way?
Well, no, not really. I don't think it's changed, and I think probably, you know, those that are in law enforcement have some concerns. First of all, I absolutely support, you know, the Second Amendment of the Constitution of people's right to protect themselves. My opinions are, I feel very strongly that maybe should occur more in the home, and I've got some concerns about that. But where I guess my concerns arrive from is oftentimes the people that have chosen to carry concealed, for whatever reason they determine it's necessary, are maybe not doing so with the utmost responsibility in mind. And although they may be competent with the weapon that they're carrying, when they choose to use or display that are sometimes irresponsible. And when you mix alcohol and abuse alcohol and or drugs while carrying, sometimes they're quick to use the weapon to settle their disputes when they would maybe do so more civilly and more maturely and without resorting to weapons, because bad things happen when you mix those things.
And even though they're not supposed to, under the concealed carry law, be mixing those things.
Yes. The other concern, and it's borne true, is I had a feeling that we would become so complacent in our carrying and use of those that there would be carelessness. And we've seen a number of incidents over the last year where they become complacent in storing them in their vehicles, and where they've been stolen from vehicles, and we've had thefts, and now you potentially have them in the wrong hands. Certainly not, you know, in the person that's purchased it, and more of the criminal element. And carelessness, where I can think of at least 3 or 4 incidents where people have set their firearm down on the car and driven away, and then we get citizens' reports of finding a gun in the middle of the road somewhere.
It's like putting the coffee cup up there and driving away, you know.
So those are, you know, concerning.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to just ask is, you know, just a couple nights ago, and as a matter of fact, tonight, as we're taping this, President Obama will be having a town hall meeting to discuss this, the expansion of, you know, gun laws, but it's, while he's expanding things, it's really kind of a honing in on certain things and making gun dealers more responsible, and leveling the playing field.
Yeah.
How do you feel about what he's, and it's a non-political position,
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
it's a non-political
certainly
question, but how do you feel about what he's proposing?
I don't know entirely the depth of what's being changed, and I know a lot of it's by executive order, and I don't want to get into the politics of it either. I think there have been some loopholes potentially with how complacent we've been with backroom deals and providing weapons with people that shouldn't have them, that fall through the cracks in the background checks that are required of licensed firearm dealers, and there are a lot of sales or transfer of weapons that are outside the parameters of that kind of foster, you know, firearms getting in the wrong hands. Those that maybe from a mental health perspective shouldn't be allowed to, and because there are sales that that fall outside that mandate of background checks, you know, they happen. So even though I don't know the full context of all of the executive order, I think if we're enhancing the mandate that more background checks will be done, then I support that.
Okay. All right, excellent. I wish we had more time, but we don't. So I just want to say, you know, thank you for not just being on this show as many times as you have over the course of the years, but just for being the chief that you have been. And I consider you more than just my chief of police. I consider you a friend, and I hope that our paths will continue to cross once you take up housework and go to the other side of the workforce. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Cheryl, and I've been blessed with the ability to lead a great organization with people that are the best of the best, and serve in a community that's been very supportive. And I've made a lot of friends, and those will continue. We're going to stay in the community. I want to stay involved to the extent that I can, and I value and treasure the friendships, including you, and I'm sure that we will be involved in mutual collaborations as time goes on.
I think I've already heard some rumblings about the possibility of that, so I look forward to that.
Very good.
Just sit tight. We're going to take a short break, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be joined by our new chief of police, who's going to be taking over starting Monday. He's Officer Chief, whatever you want to call him right now. His name is Dean Smith, and we'll be chatting with him right after this break.
If you have expired or unused medication, don't flush it, pour it down the drain, or toss it in the trash. Safely dispose of unwanted or expired medications at the drug drop box located inside the Oshkosh Police Department. It's convenient and anonymous, safe and secure, and it's open to everyone 24/7. Drop off your prescriptions, over-the-counter drugs, pet meds, and more. Keep drugs out of the reach of children and out of our water supply. Dispose of unwanted or expired medications at the drug drop box. For more information, visit the Oshkosh Police Department website at oshkoshpd.com.
Looking to give back to the community? Want to help fight hunger in the Oshkosh area? You can by donating food, your time, or your money. The Oshkosh Area Community Pantry needs more than 250 volunteers to operate and can always use new faces to help with a wide variety of tasks. The pantry cannot do it without you. Please consider helping fight hunger in Oshkosh. For more information, visit us online at oacptoday.org. That's oacptoday.org.
It's not just what you say, it's how you say it. It's said that a narrow vision is divisive, a broad vision expansive, but a divine vision is all-inclusive. Welcome all groups of citizens working for the greater good of the community. Speak your piece and be inclusive. The Oshkosh Civility Project is a community-based effort. More information at oshkoshcivilityproject.org.
And welcome back to the second half of Eye on Oshkosh. And as promised, before the break, we're joined now by our new Chief of Police, at least as of Monday, Dean Smith. And he's going to talk to us about what brought him to Oshkosh and that kind of thing. Thank you very much for being here. I'm happy to welcome you. And I was telling you before we came out of the break, I hope that this will be the first of many times that you come on the show and visit with us.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope so too. I look forward to having the opportunity to chat with you.
Sure. Well, you saw from the first half, I'm not too big of a creep when it comes to interviewing. I try and make it easy. The questions aren't always easy, but I try and make it an easy interview anyway. So you come to us from Virginia.
Yes.
And you were, what was the position that you held with
I was Deputy Chief of Police for the Suffolk Police Department.
Okay. And how big of a community was that in comparison to Oshkosh?
Well, geographically, Suffolk was 430 square miles. It's a large city. It's the largest city in Virginia. Department-wise, we had 250 members on our police department.
Okay. Wow, that is big.
Yes.
It's
90,000, 93,000 citizens in the community.
okay. So that's, you know, we've got about 60, I don't even know, 64 here,
Yes,
something
yeah.
like that. And we've got soon to be a 100-member police force, or 100-member department. And you had 250 officers?
We had 189, 190 officers, 250 total. We
Okay.
had our officers, our administrative staff. We had emergency communications, animal control.
Okay.
We ran the full gamut for the department, yes.
All right. And so how does the crime compare to here?
We had probably double the crime in Suffolk that
Okay.
that is here in Oshkosh. Suffolk is unique in that it is a part of a 7-city area called the Hampton Roads community. The population in that area probably was around 1.5 to 2 million people in that area, divided up with the 7 cities.
Wow.
So there's a lot of population, and we all were interconnected. You could go into one portion of the city of Suffolk, and you could step into 3 different cities. So really close proximity to each other, and we're really closely together.
We kind of have that too, but not here in Oshkosh. It's more up in the Fox cities.
Right.
You know, I've got one friend that I have who lives in one township. Across the street, it's a city, and she's on a corner lot, and across the street on the other side, it's a totally different township. So I'm kind of thinking, wow, you know, if you've got something going on in the middle of the street, or you've got a car accident right in the middle of the street, who responds, you know? So I know what you mean.
And that works itself out, and that's why it's so important, I think, for communities, for departments and for cities to work so well together, which is something that was important to me in Suffolk, and it will once again be important here in Oshkosh, that as a community and law enforcement, we work well with our partners.
Okay. You were sworn in January 5th.
Yes.
And we're taping this on the 7th, so just 2 days ago. And I was a little uncertain as we went into that break what I should call you right now, because, you know, are you still just an officer? Are you the chief? Because you were sworn in. But I was corrected. You're now officially the chief. You just haven't taken over.
There's kind of two of us right now.
Yeah,
yes,
there's two chiefs right now. We're in good shape right now, especially. But as of Monday, you will begin your actual duties per se.
Saturday night.
Saturday night. Okay.
I'm sorry, Friday night, Saturday morning. I will be responsible.
So at 12:01 Saturday, you take effect. You take effect in your new position. How do you feel about it? I mean, obviously, you know, you went through the meet and greets with the citizens and the Police and Fire Commission, and everybody thought you were the best choice of the applicants. You obviously felt you were qualified because you wouldn't have accepted the position or even applied. How do you feel going into this now, now that you're here and you're about ready to take over the helm? How do you feel?
Well, I think it's important to to point out that I'm very excited to be here. The opportunity to work closely with the community. I haven't met an unkind person since I've been here, and I've spent a lot of time within the businesses, walking around and talking to folks, and nobody really knew who I was. So it was just an opportunity to really get a flavor of the community and spend some time in some restaurants and talk to some wait staff, and it's nice to just talk to folks and have the opportunity to interact with them in a constructive way that you really, I think, get a flavor of the community.
Sure.
So coming into the community in that respect was important to me, but also having the opportunity to spend time with the officers, speaking to them one-on-one. My first day here, when I first arrived for a series of interviews, my first stop was at the police department. I followed a police car here and just started talking to some officers. I felt it was important just to talk with them. Transition's hard.
Sure.
Change is hard for everybody, because you really don't know what you've got coming in. And communication is the important piece, I think, that's going to solve that puzzle, where the citizens, the community get to know me, the officers get to know me, I get to know them, and we transition together. It's not me making change. It's not the community or the officers making change. It's us changing together.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, you're right about the communication. I can remember when I first started in journalism a lot of years ago, and I won't say how many. But I know that, you know, then police departments kind of held their cards close to the vest.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
They'd give you the call sheet, and you could go through and pick out what calls you wanted more information about. And if they wanted to give you that information, they would. And if not, they would just say, I can't tell you that, or we can't discuss that. Now it's much more open, and not just here. Anywhere you really go, for the most part, it's open. What I really like that Chief Greuel started was, as part of his team policing and so forth, you know, citizens can get on email lists and receive different reports of what's going on in their own area or in the other areas. And so that's been very nice. But as a journalist also, it's been refreshing to me, because folks like yourself or like Scott Greuel have been, you know, very willing to come on and talk about things. And as a journalist, I know from having covered a lot of court cases and so forth that, hey, there's certain things you guys can't talk about.
That's so true.
And,
yes.
you know, so I respect that, and I've never pushed for anything that you guys couldn't talk about. But I like the refreshing part of things being more open. And so I'm very sincere when I say I hope that you will continue to come back, and that I won't scare you off this first half hour, you know. So as you've been kind of walking around town and seeing things, that's what you're doing as sort of a private person. As the new chief coming in, how will you get to know not just the officers who are serving the community, but the community that your whole department is going to be serving?
Well, you know, you mentioned how law enforcement was in the past. Typically, it was an 8-hour-a-day job for anybody that was leading an organization. It's not that way any longer. I know that I'm going to be very busy for the first month, 2 months, 3 months, however long it takes. But I fully intend to be as participatory in as many events or as many meetings as I can attend. Can't get to them all. Right. But I want to make myself available to the community so that we can talk. Right. A lot of times problems get solved just by doing this, sitting across from each other at a table, and you sharing with me and me being able to share back as much as I can, and we really get to know each other, and having the opportunity for folks to get a flavor of what I'm about, and for me to get a flavor of what the community is about. I've heard interesting things about portions of the community that I find exciting. There's fishing clubs all over the place.
There are. Yes.
I thought that was incredible, and they're very deep-seated in the community. There's organizations that really enjoy serving the community. Those are important, and both the civic organizations as well as the church organizations, and becoming a part of those and being available to them for us to have conversations. And I think that's an opportunity that can't be missed.
Sure. What in your position as deputy chief in Suffolk County, or Suffolk, is it Suffolk County or Suffolk?
City of Suffolk,
yes. Okay. Is it in Suffolk County, or are those two different things?
Suffolk County is in New York.
Okay, yeah, they're two different things then, for sure. You can tell I was not a geography major in school. Okay, so in the city of Suffolk, you know, what kinds of things did you do as deputy chief? Did you have sort of a semi-active role like the chief, him or herself, would, or did you just sort of fill in when the chief wasn't available?
Well, I had specific commands. I've commanded virtually every unit within the department, every command within the department, each precinct, each command, whether it be investigations or administration. I was the commander of all those. I was fortunate in that my chief that I just left employment with was a strong mentor to me. He provided me opportunities to grow. He provided me opportunities to lead, and certainly there's times filling in, acting chief, the opportunity to lead my commands, the opportunity to really fulfill all parts of an organization in a law enforcement community, representing the city, representing the department and the officers. I've done all those. I was also the SWAT team commander. I was the dive team commander. I've spent nearly 10 years doing both of those. I've built buildings. I was the incident commander for a tornado that devastated the community. We had over 200 homes destroyed. It was just devastation throughout the city, and I was fortunate enough to be the law enforcement incident commander that hundreds of officers responded. Anyway, it was just a great opportunity to really help the community and be a part of that. And 27 years of doing that, there's just as Chief Greuel has said, there's so many things that you could talk about.
Sure.
But the highlights being the opportunity to serve, which was so important to me.
Sure. So what kind of an imprint did you leave on Suffolk?
Well, my most recent legacy, if you will be our body camera program. I led our body camera program in the city of Suffolk, from the acquisition to the policy development to the implementation of the program. It was an important part of the Suffolk Police Department that program was a success, and since June of last year now, of 2015, the program's been in play, and we have had incredible success in the program.
Now, I don't know. Do we have body cameras here? I don't think we do.
We're getting ready to.
Okay, good. Good.
That's one of my goals, and the city has already funded the program.
Okay.
And it's going to be part of my responsibility to get the program implemented and implemented well.
Well, I think that's great because, we've seen far too many things that have happened that are being shot with citizens and their cell phones.
Sure.
And while that's great, it's, I think, even better if you've got an officer that has a body camera on and, it's not just about, catching a cop when he's doing something wrong. It's about protecting him or her, too.
It absolutely is.
Because, we all have seen and heard of litigious people who say, oh, they did this or they did that. But I'm sorry, the cameras don't lie.
No. The facts are what they are, and it's important to be able to see what the facts are and make decisions based upon those. And we in Suffolk had experienced a lot of successes with the cameras, where we've been able to really represent well what actually occurred. And sometimes there have been allegations that were made against officers, and they were proven to be untrue based upon just hit and play.
Sure.
And being able to see what in fact happened.
Now, what kind of, well, let me rephrase that. I'm not going to ask that question that way. I sound like a lawyer now, don't I? But there was no objection from the other side. Do you recommend cameras being running all the time, or what's the typical protocol? Do you, as soon as you stop someone or engage with a citizen, do you hit record?
I believe that yes, as soon as there is a significant citizen interaction, a law enforcement action, a traffic stop, a call for service, going to make an arrest, then the camera should be on.
Okay.
The technology is such that those videos, if they're evidentiary in nature, then certainly we can take care of that.
Sure.
If we're doing a one-on-one citizen interaction on the street where I stop you and I have a conversation with you, that video may not have any value whatsoever, and then the video goes away. But if you limit if you give latitude for the officer to turn the camera on or off when they choose to, then I don't think that gives the transparency that the community is looking for. And that creates a problem. That creates a question. And we want to limit the questions. So I do believe that a citizen interaction that the camera should be running.
Right. I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I had a conversation about this very thing with someone maybe about 3 or 4 months ago, and that person didn't seem to be of the same opinion that I was. And I said, hey, it's to protect everyone involved, not just the citizen.
Right.
It's to protect the officers too. But if the officer is choosing when and how to record, that sort of defeats the purpose of having the body camera.
Well, I think you're right, and I think that by having a citizen interaction occurring, and in their review of these videos along the way, I think that will take all the question out of the interaction.
Yeah. Well, see, I like you already. You're already agreeing with me. So body cameras, I think that's a really good thing that we're going to have officers with those here. I hope that you won't make any changes to the team policing, community policing, because that's been so successful. What other kinds of things do you hope during your time here, Chief, that you will, and I know that this is kind of a loaded question because you haven't even started yet and you barely know the community, but, and no one wants to just come in saying, I'm going to change this and I'm going to change, I mean, that doesn't suit anybody well. Right. But what kinds of things, if you could wave a magic wand and make something happen, what would you like to see happen in the city?
Well, I think that there certainly is, there's going to be a time where I'm going to be speaking to the officers and the community as we discussed, and I need to hear from them. I need to hear what their viewpoints are as to what they believe that can take us to a different place as a police department if we need to. There are things that I know that the police department is doing incredibly well now. There may be some things we can improve upon, and I need to listen to those, and we as an organization need to direct a path as to how we're going to address those things. some of the emerging technology that's out there today, and I'm a big technology guy. In the city of Suffolk, if there was a technology project for the police department, I was probably involved in it over my career through implementation of some way, shape, or form. But intelligence-led policing, I think, is incredibly important. There's predictive policing software out there right now that allows for an agency to predict where crime is going to occur at, and to staff those areas within the community based upon criminal patterns. And that's an exciting piece of technology out there that I think that has value to explore.
Okay. Well, it sounds exciting. Of course, I'm sure it's expensive also. Is there money in the budget for something like that?
No, this is something that's long-term that we need to explore. It may not be right for Oshkosh, but it is something that I think has value, and it's worth looking at.
It's interesting what you're talking about there. Does it, and I'm just kind of asking this for my own knowledge, you know, predictive type software, is that you program in like income statistics for the area?
No, you criminal behavior. Criminal behavior. It has nothing to do with demographics. It has nothing to do with income. It's really on where are your crimes occurring at.
Okay.
And when you have a large amount of data, if you have an analyst trying to look at all the data along the way, they can miss something.
Okay.
But if you have through the software itself, you can predict time of day, the day itself that crimes are occurring, the series of crimes that are occurring. If you can do those things, then you're serving the citizens much better, and you have the opportunity to not chase the crime, but actually prevent the crime.
Sure.
And that's really what we want to do.
So it pays for itself.
It absolutely pays for itself, and that the citizens have a reduction in crime.
Has it been shown to be fairly accurate?
Absolutely. Los Angeles Police Department's using it. DeKalb County and Atlanta's using it. There's numerous agencies throughout the country that are currently using predictive policing.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. Let me take a look here. Let me ask you the one question that I asked Chief Greuel. You know, it has to do with concealed carry. And, you know, did you have concealed carry? I believe that your state was one. I mean, there's all but one now, I think, that has concealed carry. So you would have had concealed carry there. How long has concealed carry been in the state of Virginia?
It's been a long time. I couldn't even tell you when it hasn't been in the state of Virginia. We have had concealed carry for probably longer than I've been a police officer.
So you don't really know how it works as opposed to how it didn't work because you weren't in policing back then.
That's correct.
So you, I'm assuming then, and maybe I'm wrong, if I am, please correct me, are you in favor of it then? Do you feel it's a good thing? Or as a sworn officer, do you kind of have some reservations?
I think under the right circumstances, concealed carry has its place. I absolutely believe in the Second Amendment. I think that every citizen of the country has the right and should have the ability to bear arms within certain guidelines. In Virginia, you're unable to carry a concealed weapon into a ABC licensed establishment if you're going to be drinking. You're not permitted to do that.
So you can't. You can, if you're not going to be drinking, though, you can carry.
Yes.
And that's kind of a fine line.
If you're intoxicated, you can't be carrying a concealed weapon.
That's what concerns me about it is, first of all, if I'm an owner of a club or a restaurant that serves alcohol or whatever, and someone comes in, how do I know that they're carrying something? So I may serve them, and then if they are carrying and they continue to be served and something happens, you know, how much liability comes back on me as that shop owner?
Right.
Or storekeeper, whatever you want to call it. Maybe nothing, but as a litigious society that we live in, someone sure as hell is going to find a way to come back on me as that barkeeper.
Right.
And then the other thing is, you know, how do you know, since you don't know if they're carrying or not, how do you know if you should even be serving them? You know, you can't frisk everybody who comes in the door.
And that's a decision of the individual business owner. That's their private property. That's their private business. The the business owner themselves are going to be responsible for how they manage their business.
Yeah. So let's talk about, you know, Barack Obama's plan to sort of make some changes with regard to gun registration, gun legislation. And again, I'm not trying to get into a political conversation here, just from a basic law enforcement standpoint and helping to preserve and protect lives standpoint. How do you feel about what he's proposing?
Well, if there is an opportunity to improve background checks, and it's done in such a manner that is constructive, then I certainly support that. It is going to be on the implementation side of that is going to be the tail of the tape there.
Yeah.
And how does it affect us, and how does it improve? If it improves what we're doing now and makes a safer community, then it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But there needs to be some evaluation of it along the way.
Sure. Well, I know, you know, I certainly would have no objection whatsoever to any kind of a background check. I've always had mixed feelings about the concealed carry law. And, you know, we were one of only 2 states not to have it. Now we're amongst the other 48. And I'm still not sure how I feel about it. I know that there are times, I mean, I did take the class fairly recently myself, just because there are times when I feel I may need to carry something. But I've never wanted to feel like I'm living in a, you know, I don't know, the Old West, you know, where everybody is carrying a weapon and you know, having major shootouts if it comes down to that. That scares me.
I think it's important that you differentiate between concealed carry and open carry, because open carry is available. So
yes, and I learned that too.
Just because it's concealed carry doesn't, and it's not open carry, it doesn't change the dynamic of the fact that there's a firearm involved, a weapon involved. There's a lot more responsibility when you're carrying a weapon, whether it's concealed or whether or not it's an open carry.
Yeah.
And you have the same responsibility.
Yeah, I learned that, and I
Yes.
was surprised to learn
Yes.
that and I can't remember the date that they told us, but since 19 whatever, Wisconsin has open carry. You can put a holster right on your
Right,
hip,
right.
or have it in a belly holster, whatever, but as long as it is openly visible to
Yes.
someone, you can walk around as if you were living in the wild west. And you know, you can't walk into a bank like that. You know, they might get a little nervous, but you know, that was surprising to me because I didn't realize that we could do that. And yet I just saw that Texas just real recently has gone to an open carry system, if you will. And that surprised me that they weren't already. I mean, I lived in Texas for some time, and I thought that they were pretty much leading the country in the way of having open weapons and so forth, but I guess not. We're almost out of time here, Chief. What lasting message do you want to leave with the public for this first time on the show?
Well, I want the public to know that as it relates to a transition from one chief of police to another chief of police, it generally should be seamless. They're not going to see any change in services. They're not going to see any reduction in services. There's going to be a period of time where we're all going to learn each other. Then you know what? The police department's going to make mistakes. That happens because we're human. We're going to make mistakes. But we're going to do the best that we can for the community, and we're going to lead the community with integrity. We're going to lead the community with a service-minded mindset that we want to serve the community, and that's important.
Okay. Excellent. Well, very good. Well, thank you so much for being here. And, you know, you got your first big interview now out of the way before you, technically, before you even start the job. So thank you for being here. I feel very honored that you were able to come on tonight. And I look forward to working with you over the next many, many years.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Just sit tight. That's going to do it for us. We will see you next time. Until then, take care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.
Oshkosh.